Mornings can feel like the longest part of the day when you live with arthritis. The alarm clock rings, but instead of leaping out of bed, you lie there, feeling as if your joints have been replaced with old, rusted hinges. The world expects you to rise and shine, yet your body feels heavy, stiff, and uncooperative. For many people over 50, this daily struggle becomes an invisible battle, and it's tempting to blame age alone. But here's a truth I want you to know. Much of that morning pain isn't just inevitable aging, it's influenced by the choices you make in those first fragile hours. I'm Dr. Brian, and welcome to Channel Wellness Blueprint Over 50. Today I'm going to show you the top 3 morning mistakes arthritis patients must avoid if they want faster pain relief, more freedom in their movement, and brighter mornings that feel worth waking up for. When I think about mornings with arthritis, I often remember a patient of mine named Margaret. She was 71, a retired teacher who loved reading novels in bed. Every morning she told me the same thing. Dr. Brian, I just want to stay under the covers because the moment I move, the pain greets me like an unwelcome guest. And for years, Margaret believed lying still was the kindest thing she could do for her body. What she didn't realize was that stillness was her silent enemy. You see, when we sleep, our joints are like a pond with no wind. The water sits still, no ripples, no movement. In our joints, this water is called synovial fluid. It's the natural lubricant that keeps bones gliding smoothly. But when we lie still for hours, that fluid slows down and becomes sluggish. By the time the alarm clock goes off, our joints are coated in stiffness, almost like glue. The temptation is to avoid moving, but that only allows the glue to harden, making each step worse than the last. Imagine an old wooden gate that hasn't been opened in months. The hinges creak and resist. But if you push gently, open it a little, then close it again, the rust begins to loosen, and soon the gate swings freely. Our joints behave the same way. Without those gentle pushes and pulls in the morning, the rust of stiffness takes control. Margaret and I began working on something very simple, a 5-minute morning routine done before her feet even touched the floor. While still lying in bed, she would roll her ankles in slow circles, stretch her arms overhead like a yawn, and bend and straighten her knees a few times. At first, she groaned through every movement, but after a few weeks, she told me, "It's like I've oiled my hinges before the day begins." That's the magic of morning movement. It doesn't erase arthritis, but it teaches your body to cooperate instead of fight you. Now I know what you may be thinking. But Dr. Brian, moving hurts in the morning. Isn't pain a sign to stop? Here's the difference. Gentle discomfort is your body's way of saying, "I'm waking up." Sharp, stabbing pain is a red light telling you to pause. The goal isn't to push through pain, it's to coax your joints awake. Think of it like encouraging a sleepy grandchild out of bed. You don't yank off the blankets, you whisper, open the curtains, and let them wake gently. Science backs this up. A study in the journal Arthritis Care and Research found that patients who practice daily range of motion exercises experience significantly less morning stiffness and greater joint function than those who remained inactive. That's not just theory, that's lived improvement measured in lives that feel lighter and more capable. And here's something I always emphasize. Consistency beats intensity. You don't need a 30-minute yoga session at sunrise. Even 2 or 3 minutes of moving your joints gently can begin the process of lubrication. Over time, this habit rewires your body's morning response. Instead of bracing against stiffness, you begin to expect movement, and your joints answer with a little more cooperation each day. There's also a secret emotional benefit. Movement releases endorphins, those natural feel-good chemicals that improve mood. Patients often tell me, "Dr. Brian, I thought exercise was just about my joints, but it lifted my spirits too." When your body moves, your mind feels a sense of momentum. You're not stuck. You're not broken. You're beginning again. Of course, you can make this ritual more enjoyable. Play your favorite soft music, listen to a podcast, or even invite a partner to stretch with you. One of my patients began doing gentle morning stretches with her granddaughter, turning it into a little game. The joy of connection made the habit easier to stick with. Now Margaret has been practicing her morning stretches for over a year. She still has arthritis, but she no longer spends her first hour battling her body. Instead, she starts her day with movement that gives her confidence. She told me recently, "I used to wake up feeling old. Now I wake up feeling in charge." That shift is priceless. So if you're tempted to lie still in the mornings, remember this. Rest is necessary during sleep, but after you wake, stillness becomes the enemy. Gentle movement is like telling your body, the day has begun and I am ready. And with arthritis, that choice can mean the difference between a day of struggle and a day of possibility. I want to tell you about Harold, a 68-year-old grandfather who loved gardening. He came to me one spring, frustrated because every morning he'd wake with stiff hands that made gripping his watering can nearly impossible. But instead of paying attention to the pain, Harold did what many of us are taught to do. He ignored it. He believed toughness meant pushing through, that if he just forced himself out of bed and got on with the day, the stiffness would magically vanish. But what actually happened was far different. By noon, his fingers were swollen. By evening, they were throbbing. And by the next morning, the cycle began again. Ignoring his body's signals wasn't saving him time. It was costing him days of comfort. Pain, especially morning pain, is like the warning light on the dashboard of your car. You wouldn't cover it with tape and pretend it wasn't there, would you? Of course not. You'd check the engine, top off the oil, or call a mechanic. Pain works the same way. It's your body's engine light signaling that something inside needs attention. And with arthritis, those morning signals are often the earliest clues that inflammation is stirring. When you dismiss them, inflammation gains strength, spreading like a fire that was never doused when it was just a spark. Here's what's really happening. During the night, your immune system is busy, sometimes working overtime if you have arthritis. Inflammation builds in the joints, fluid collects, and the result is morning stiffness. That stiffness is not weakness, it's information. It's your body whispering, "Please help me." When you ignore it, you miss the chance to respond with care, and the whisper can grow into a shout. For Harold, the turning point came when I asked him to try something different. Instead of rushing out of bed and heading to the garden, I asked him to pause each morning, take inventory of his body, and acknowledge his pain without frustration. He started by placing a warm towel over his hands for 5 minutes before moving them. The warmth soothed his joints, increasing blood flow and easing the stiffness. Then he did gentle finger stretches, nothing complicated, just opening and closing his hands, slowly curling and extending his fingers. Within weeks, he noticed he could grip his watering can again without the sharp pain he once endured. This isn't just anecdote. Research in the journal Annals of the Rheumatic Diseases has shown that applying heat therapy followed by gentle movement can significantly reduce pain and improve function in arthritis patients. What science confirms is what experience shows us. Listening to your body in the morning pays dividends throughout the day. Now, I know some people hesitate because they fear focusing on pain will make it worse. But the opposite is true. When you acknowledge your pain, you're not surrendering to it. You're taking charge of it. Think of it like a neighbor ringing your doorbell with important news. If you ignore the doorbell, you might miss something crucial. If you open the door, you gain information and can act wisely. There's also an emotional dimension. Ignoring pain often leads to frustration and self-criticism. People think, "Why am I weak? Why can't I just push through like everyone else?" But when you meet pain with compassion instead of judgment, something shifts. Stress lowers, and we know from multiple studies that lower stress means lower inflammation. It becomes a cycle in your favor. Kindness reduces stress, reduced stress eases inflammation, and eased inflammation lessens pain. Harold began journaling his morning symptoms, just a few lines about how his hands felt each day. Over time, he saw patterns. Some mornings were better after restful nights, others were tougher after long days of gardening. This gave him a sense of control, and he even adjusted his medication in consultation with his doctor based on these observations. By listening instead of ignoring, he reclaimed not just mobility, but confidence. I want you to imagine tomorrow morning. Instead of springing out of bed or pretending nothing hurts, pause. Take 60 seconds. Scan your body from head to toe. Notice your knees, your fingers, your back. Then ask, what small kindness can I give these joints right now? Maybe it's a heating pad, maybe it's a stretch, Maybe it's simply taking a warm shower before starting chores. That minute of attention is not wasted time. It's an investment in a day with less pain. Harold once told me, "Dr. Brian, I thought listening to my pain would slow me down, but it's what finally set me free." And that's the truth. Ignoring morning pain keeps you trapped. Listening to it gives you the key. With arthritis, silence is not golden. Response is, not long ago I met Linda, a vibrant 65-year-old who adored her morning rituals. For her, mornings meant a steaming cup of flavored coffee with extra sugar and a sweet pastry she called her Little Joy. But she couldn't understand why. Despite her daily stretching and careful routines, her joints felt swollen and achy by mid-morning. When we dug into her habits, it became clear. The very first thing she was feeding her body each day was inflammation disguised as comfort. When you live with arthritis, your body is already carrying the burden of chronic inflammation. Think of inflammation like a small fire burning in a fireplace. Controlled, it keeps you warm. Uncontrolled, it spreads to the carpet, the curtains, the walls, and suddenly it's destructive. The foods and drinks you choose in the morning can either fuel that fire or help contain it. Sugary drinks, processed pastries, fried breakfast meats. These are like tossing gasoline onto the flames. They don't just satisfy your taste buds for a few moments. They leave behind a smoldering that worsens joint pain, swelling, and fatigue throughout the day. Why does this happen? When you eat something high in sugar or refined carbohydrates, your blood sugar spikes quickly. In response, your body releases insulin, and that surge triggers the production of inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. Cytokines are like messengers shouting, "Inflammation, assemble," in every corner of your body, and if you already have arthritis, your joints are the first to answer that painful call. Add in processed fats from fried foods or bacon, and the fire grows hotter. This isn't meant to scare you, but to empower you. Because here's the hopeful truth. Just as food can worsen inflammation, it can also soothe it. When Linda swapped her sugary coffee for warm water with a slice of lemon and replaced her pastry with a small bowl of yogurt topped with flax seeds and blueberries, she was skeptical. "Dr. Brian, can something so small really matter?" she asked. But after 3 weeks, she noticed her rings slid onto her fingers more easily, and her mid-morning stiffness wasn't nearly as harsh. She hadn't changed her medications, only her first choices of the day. That's the power of nutrition in arthritis pain relief. Science supports this too. A study published in Frontiers in Nutrition demonstrated that diets rich in anti-inflammatory foods, such as fruits, vegetables, nuts, and omega-3 fatty acids, led to measurable improvements in joint pain relief for arthritis patients. This wasn't about massive lifestyle overhauls. It was about consistent, small shifts in daily eating patterns that reduced inflammatory markers in the blood. So what can you do? Start by looking at your morning plate and cup as your foundation. If you begin with sugar, refined carbs, or processed fats, you've stacked your foundation with sand. But if you begin with hydration, protein, and anti-inflammatory foods, you've built on solid ground. That could mean warm water with lemon or turmeric tea, a smoothie with spinach and berries, or simply a handful of walnuts alongside your breakfast. These choices send signals to your body. Inflammation, calm down. Healing, step forward. I often remind my patients that food is more than fuel. It's communication. Every bite sends a message to your cells, to your joints, to your immune system. With arthritis, the goal is to speak words of comfort, not provoke a shouting match inside your body. Linda told me one morning she invited her daughter over for breakfast. Instead of coffee and pastries, she prepared oatmeal topped with cinnamon, apples, and chia seeds. Her daughter loved it, but more importantly, Linda felt proud. "It felt like I was choosing healing, not hurting," she said. That's when I knew she had embraced food not as restriction, but as empowerment. Hydration plays its part too. Many older adults wake up dehydrated, which thickens the blood and slows joint lubrication. Drinking water upon waking is like opening a window in a stuffy room. The body breathes easier. On the other hand, reaching for sugary sodas or too much coffee first thing can dry you out, adding another layer of stress to your joints. Changing morning habits doesn't mean denying yourself joy. It means redefining joy. Joy can be the relief of looser joints as you walk to the mailbox, the freedom of opening a jar without wincing, the comfort of knowing your body feels lighter. That kind of joy lasts longer than any pastry ever could. So the next time you reach for your first meal or drink, remember this. Your body has just spent the night repairing itself. Those first choices decide whether you continue that healing or undo it before the day has even begun. Linda learned that lesson, and now her mornings are not just rituals of taste, but rituals of healing. And you too can choose to nourish your joints instead of fueling the fire. Every morning with arthritis is an invitation. You can accept stiffness as your master, or you can take small, compassionate steps that reclaim your freedom. Skipping movement leaves your joints locked, ignoring pain silences the body's wisdom, and choosing inflammatory foods feeds the very fire you wish to calm. But when you stretch gently, listen carefully, and nourish wisely, mornings transform. I'm Dr. Brian, and I want you to know, change is possible at any age. Your body still responds to kindness. Start tomorrow with intention, and you'll find brighter mornings and lighter joints waiting for you.